First story. I caused my entitled son to lose his job for our traditional family vacation. He sulked the entire trip. I told him to move on, and that it's not that big a deal. He still sulked, so I grounded him for not enjoying it. Now he has left my house, and I don't know how to make him come to our next family vacation. I'm already expecting to get ripped in the comments, but here we go. I 42F and my husband 44M have 3 kids. Our oldest is our son 16, and we have 2 daughters, 13 and 10. For the past 17 years, our family has taken the same vacation every summer without fail. We rent this small beach house in a quieter part of the Gulf Coast in Florida. It's not fancy, but it's ours for that week, and it's been the one consistent tradition through everything: pregnancies, job changes, health scares, school dramas. It never mattered. That week was sacred. Our son has always loved the trips. Even during his moody preteen years, he'd swim all day, help his dad grill, and hang out with his sisters. We've got years of photos of him helping his little sister with her floaties or building sandcastles. It's always been something we do together. No exceptions. Back in March, he landed a part-time job at a local pool as a lifeguard. We live in South Florida, so pools here are open year-round, and honestly, I was proud of him. It's a solid job. He took the lifeguard training seriously, and it showed that he was ready to take on more responsibility. He even started waking up earlier and taking more care in how he presented himself. For a 16-year-old boy, that's saying something. He told us right after he got the job that he'd already mentioned the vacation to his manager, that he'd need a week off in July. We told him that was good and reminded him again how important that week was. He said he knew. I didn't think anything more of it until June, when he told us the manager said he couldn't take the time off. Apparently, since he had only started 6 weeks before, and it was peak summer season, his boss didn't want to approve time off. His exact words were, he said no. He said if I leave for a week, he can't guarantee I'll have hours when I come back. My husband and I both told him, well, then you're going anyway. He got defensive immediately. He said it wasn't that simple, that he liked the job, that it felt like he was finally doing something for himself, and that if he bailed for a week during the busiest time of summer, they'd probably just replace him. We basically told him that's life. Part-time jobs are replaceable. Family isn't. We made it clear that we weren't asking. He'd already been part of the planning. The house was booked in January. He'd be missing a few shifts of watching kids splash around in a pool. This was our family's thing, his family, and that mattered more. That didn't go down well. He sulked hard for a week straight after that. Stopped talking to us, avoided the girls, and holed up in his room anytime he was home. At one point I overheard him telling his sister, "They don't care about what I want. They treat me like a kid who has no say." That hit me a little, not going to lie. I do think we've given him plenty of room to grow. He's had way more freedom at 16 than I ever did. He's allowed to go out with friends. He manages his own money, and we've treated him like a young adult when it's appropriate. But when it comes to prioritizing us as a family, I won't apologize for keeping that line firm. Especially when the sacrifice he's making is a couple weeks of paycheck and chlorine. We told him again, firmly, 2 weeks before the trip, that he'd be coming with us. He argued. He even asked if he could stay with a friend's family for the week instead, and just work. That was a flat-out no. Not because we don't trust him, he's a good kid. We do, but because we knew damn well the second we let him skip once, it would open the door to everything else becoming more important. Next year it'd be a girlfriend, then college visits, then whatever else. The tradition matters. It's not just a week off. It's how we stay bonded. Vacation week comes. We pack, drive out there, and from the second we leave the driveway, he's got that deadpan look, arms crossed, earbuds in, zero interaction. We thought maybe he'd warm up once we got there, like he always does. Nope. The entire week, he barely spoke to us. He refused to come to the beach. He stayed inside, wouldn't eat dinner with us, and wouldn't play cards or go on walks with his sisters. My husband tried having a heart-to-heart with him one evening, saying, "I know you're mad, but this is bigger than a job. You'll have dozens of those in your life, but you only get one family." His response, "Yeah, and you're treating me like your employee." It stung. And I won't pretend we handled it gracefully every time. There were a couple of blowouts. One time, my husband snapped at him for spending the whole day inside scrolling his phone, and our son shouted, "You forced me here and got me fired. What the hell do you expect me to do?" And yes, that's the thing. He did get fired. Halfway through the trip, he got a short email from his boss. "We'll be moving forward without you. Good luck." He showed it to us, like he wanted us to see what we'd caused. I get it. He felt betrayed. He worked hard and was proud of his job. And to him, we tossed it aside like it didn't matter. I truly didn't think they'd actually let him go over it. But we told him before we left if they did, then so be it. So yeah, he was fired. And instead of using the rest of the week to try to reset emotionally, he just stewed, wouldn't talk, wouldn't laugh, wouldn't join in on anything. The girls noticed. My 13-year-old asked me one night, "Why does he hate us now?" That broke my heart. When we got back home, we told him he was grounded for the way he acted. Not for being angry, I understand anger, but for flat out refusing to participate, for being cruel to his sisters, and for how disrespectfully he talked to us. He screamed at us, said we were punishing him for our decision, that we cost him something, and then punished him for not smiling about it. He went upstairs, slammed his door, and didn't come out for hours. And even though I still believe we did what was right for the family, I will admit the aftermath hasn't been easy. He's cold now. Polite, but distant. Eats dinner, says thank you, and does his chores, but it's all robotic, like he's putting on a mask. It's been over 2 months now. He found a new job at another pool, so it's not like this ruined him or anything. But he's still bitter. He still brings it up when there's any kind of argument. He says we showed our true colors, that we care more about playing pretend happy family than about what he wants. He keeps repeating, "You didn't even ask what I wanted. You just decided." And here's the thing. He's not wrong. We didn't ask him what he wanted. We assumed we already knew that he'd get over it like every other year. That once we got to the beach and things settled in, he'd fall back into the rhythm. That the job was just a temporary thing, and we could steamroll the decision because we were the parents. We weren't trying to ruin anything for him. We just didn't think his first part-time job was that serious. And honestly, I still don't. But looking back, I can see how, from his perspective, it probably felt like we treated him like a child after giving him a taste of independence. He took the initiative to get trained, interviewed, and started saving. And he took pride in his work. And we pulled him out of it like it didn't matter. Still, I can't pretend we regret it. I don't. This trip is more than just a vacation. It's history. It's one of the few things that ties all 5 of us together. We've gone even in years where we were broke, when my husband's job was in limbo, and when my youngest had chickenpox, and we just kept her inside the house the whole time. We've never skipped. We knew that once we opened the door for, "I have work," or "I have plans," we'd lose it. Not just with him, but with all of them. And what's left when your kids scatter and don't look back? What do you cling to when there's nothing left that's just for the family? So yeah, we forced it. We forced him to come. We forced him to put family first because he's 16. Because we're still the parents, and, for better or worse, we're trying to hold something together. And yet, I can feel it cracking. He doesn't laugh with his sisters anymore. He doesn't joke with us. He leaves the house early for work, stays out longer, and barely makes eye contact when we talk. He's not hostile, but he's checked out. It's different now. And maybe this was just the catalyst. Maybe we were already on the edge of losing that bond and didn't see it. But the silence now, it's louder than anything he yelled at us that week. A few nights ago, I found him in the garage working on his bike. He didn't hear me at first, and when he saw me, he just looked tired. Not physically, emotionally, like he'd already written us off. I asked if he wanted help. He shook his head and said, "You wouldn't get it." I said, "Try me." He looked up for a second and said, "Why should I? You guys already made your choice." That's the part that sticks with me. That he sees it as a choice. Like it was a fork in the road, and we picked family tradition over him. I still don't agree with that, but I see how he could believe it. For what it's worth, my husband stands firm. He says we made the right call. That a teenager doesn't get to dictate the family schedule, especially not for a part-time pool gig. That we didn't ruin his life, we taught him a lesson in priorities. But even he's quieter lately. I caught him rewatching old vacation clips on his phone last weekend. He didn't say anything, just put it down and walked away. My middle daughter has started talking about next year's trip, with caution in her voice. She asked if her brother will come, and I didn't have an answer. My youngest made a picture collage from the trip, and didn't include him in a single photo. Said, he wasn't really there. It's like he's slowly disappearing from our unit, and we're pretending not to notice. We've tried talking to him since. Once. We said we understood he felt hurt, and maybe we should have discussed it more. But he just said, "You didn't respect my choices then, So why would I believe you do now? He got hired at another pool, right? Better pay, better manager. And he's actually happy there. So no, it didn't ruin his work life. It didn't mess up his future. From a practical standpoint, everything is fine. But he's not fine with us. And I don't know if he will be. We don't think we owe him an apology for choosing to keep a family tradition alive. We didn't take away his future. We made him miss a week of work at 16. That's not betrayal. But he clearly sees it differently. He thinks we devalued his autonomy and threw away his effort like it meant nothing. That we decided family on our terms and expected him to fake a smile through it. And maybe that's true. So here I am. On the outside, this looks like an overreaction, a teen being dramatic because he missed a few shifts. But in our house, it shifted everything. And I don't know if we'll get him back. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. Look, you don't get to talk about teaching priorities when your lesson was, if you don't do what we say, we'll nuke your life and call it family bonding. The kid had a job. A real one. Not some babysitting gig. He got certified, showed up on time, and did something responsible at 16. That's rare as hell. You didn't just force him on a trip. He clearly told you he couldn't take you, cost him money, experience, and a reference. And then grounded him for reacting like a normal human being. What kind of message is that? We'll make you do something against your will and then punish you for being upset about it. Don't be surprised when he goes no contact at 18 and takes your sacred family traditions with him. YTA. Comment 2. I think you genuinely don't get what you did here. You say, it's just a part-time job. But to him it wasn't. It was his thing. His first step into real-world responsibility. And you stomped all over that because of a vacation. From where I'm standing, it sounds like you're more nostalgic for the kid he used to be than willing to accept who he's becoming. He tried to take ownership of his life, and you shut that down so you could pretend everything's still like it was 5 years ago. I get that the trip means a lot to you. But now it's a symbol of resentment for him. Not family. You broke trust, and now he's just done. I wouldn't expect to see much of him after he turns 18 unless something changes. YTA. Comment 3. I get the whole family tradition thing. But you played it wrong. Dead wrong. That job meant something to him. It wasn't about the paycheck. It was about finally being taken seriously. You stripped that away. And then grounded him like he was 8 years old for being pissed. Come on. He didn't throw a chair through the wall, he withdrew. That's a hell of a lot more mature than I would have expected at 16. And I know what you're thinking, that if you let him skip the trip once, the tradition dies. But you killed the tradition anyway. You made him come physically. But mentally he left that beach house the second he got in the car. So yeah, update. So I didn't plan to update. But a lot has happened in the last 2 months. And honestly, things have gotten worse and weirdly out of control. I'll try to keep this as clear as possible because even I'm struggling to keep up with how fast it spiraled. After my original post, things were already tense. But I convinced my husband we should try family therapy. I genuinely thought it would help him see that traditions matter. And maybe a third party would explain family priority better than we could. That was my first mistake. We go to therapy, and our son is quiet the whole time until the therapist asks him directly, "What do you feel wasn't heard?" And it was like flipping a switch. He says, "They don't value me as a person with my own agency. They value me as a prop in their tradition." My husband immediately cut in with, "That's dramatic," and the therapist asked him not to interrupt. That pissed him off. My husband said, "You don't understand. He's overreacting to losing a few shifts as a teenage employee." And my son replied, "You didn't lose shifts. I lost trust." The therapist asked if we discussed the trip with him or gave him a real choice. I said we're the parents, and we didn't think it required negotiation. The therapist didn't judge us, but asked why we felt family bonding had to require forced participation. That set my husband off. He said, "If you're siding with him, we're done." He walked out. The session ended right there. Son didn't say anything in the car. Tension grew even colder. Then Thanksgiving happened. We had family over, my parents, his parents, my sister, and her husband. During dinner, my mother-in-law brought up how she admired how we kept the annual beach tradition alive. I wish she hadn't said that. My son looked dead at her and said, "Yeah, they'll fire you from your own life if you try to miss it." Everyone got quiet. My husband tried to say something like, "Don't start." My son said, "No, let's actually tell them how I lost my job because they forced me on a trip and grounded me for not being cheerful enough about it." My father-in-law made a face like he wasn't surprised. My sister stared at me like, "Is this true?" My husband got defensive and said, "We didn't ruin anything. He got another job." My son replied, "That's not the point. But you still don't get that." Then he left the table. My 13-year-old went after him. My 10-year-old cried. My mother whispered something to me about, maybe this wasn't handled well. My sister looked uncomfortable. The whole dinner fell apart. My husband was furious and said our son humiliated us on purpose. A week later, right after his 17th birthday, which he barely acknowledged with us, he celebrated with friends. I found a typed letter on his desk addressed to both of us. I won't write it all, but here are some lines burned into my brain. That trip isn't a tradition for me anymore. It's a reminder of when I realized you'd rather preserve a picture of what we used to be than accept who I'm becoming. I don't trust you to support me when I make decisions for myself. I'm already planning to move out as soon as I graduate, and I probably won't come on future trips. I won't fake family happiness for your peace of mind. Stop saying you did it out of love. I cried reading it. Not because I think everything he said is completely fair, but because I realized how serious he is about leaving emotionally. I keep telling myself he's 17. This is dramatic, but it doesn't feel teenage dramatic. It feels final. My husband read it, went very quiet, then said, "This is what you wanted. Your therapy garbage. Your emotional talk, this is where you've led us." He says I'm the one who escalated it by going to therapy, by validating his feelings. He thinks if we had stayed firm and not shown guilt, our son would have just gotten over it eventually. Now he barely talks to me unless it's about logistics. He's iced me out emotionally. He claims I made us look weak and let our son think he's in charge. Meanwhile, our son has basically moved his emotional life outside the house. He's either working, out with friends, or in his room with headphones in. He's polite to the girls and will still help them with homework or stuff, but he won't joke with them anymore. My 13-year-old says he's somewhere else mentally. My 10-year-old keeps asking if we ruined him. Last week, I tried to talk to him. I said, "I don't regret wanting us together, but I'm sorry you feel hurt." He said, "That's not an apology. That's you still defending it." He asked me directly, if I had said I truly didn't want to go, would you have let me stay? And I froze, because even now, I'm not sure if I would have. I said, "I don't know." He said, "That's exactly why I can't trust you." He walked away. Now my husband wants to completely cancel talking about the next trip, because he thinks it's too dramatic to bring up right now. But I want to still go and genuinely hope we could repair things by going again with a different approach, more freedom, etc. But my husband says I'm delusional if I think dragging him again will fix anything. I'm now stuck in a weird in-between state where I regret the fallout. But I still don't feel like forcing a 16-year-old to participate in a family trip should have caused this level of nuclear reaction. Yes, we mishandled it. Yes, grounding him was wrong. Yes, I understand now that we underestimated how much that job mattered to him. But at the same time, I feel like he's rewriting it as emotional abuse when it was a bad parenting call, not malicious control. And my husband is doubling down on me being the reason it's still an issue. I'm caught between a son pulling away and a husband acting like I broke the family by trying to address what happened. I don't know how to fix this. I want my son back, but not as a forced participant. I want my husband to stop blaming me. I don't want the next beach trip to be the funeral for our relationship. I don't even know whether suggesting we try again would help or destroy what's left. Do we cancel future trips? Do I apologize even if I still believe he overreacted? Is there a way to salvage this without completely surrendering authority or treating him like a victim of something bigger than it actually was? How do we move from here without losing him for good? I need advice. Comments. Comment 1. Jesus, OP, you're still talking about the next beach trip. After everything that's happened. You've had a therapy blow up, a Thanksgiving meltdown, and a typed out goodbye letter. And you're still clinging to this idea like the beach house is some damn magic spell that will glue your family back together. Let it go. Your son isn't overreacting. He's reacting to a lifetime of not being listened to. And this job was just the tipping point. You keep saying you don't regret wanting the family together, okay, fine. But what you should regret is forcing togetherness instead of earning it. And your husband is blaming you. That's rich. He didn't just go along, he grounded the kid and blew up at therapy. Now he's shifting blame because it's easier than facing the fact that his controlling parenting style nuked your son's trust. At this point, your kid is planning his exit. You're down to months before graduation, and every decision from here matters. If you bring up another beach trip, you're lighting the final match. Stop trying to relive old memories. Start showing up in the present, where your kid is telling you loud and clear, I'm not your little boy anymore. Comment 2. I'm going to be blunt. You still don't get it. You talk about regret, but only in the sense of how things turned out, not about what you actually did. You forced a teenager to lose his job, then punished him for having normal emotional responses to it, then acted shocked when he didn't want to play happy family. And now, after a full year of fallout, you're still planning another family trip. You're not trying to fix this, you're trying to reset it to a version that's comfortable for you. You're not hearing him, you're managing him. You're not reaching out, you're laying bait. Also, your husband sounds emotionally abusive. Sorry, but if he's icing you out, blaming you, and calling therapy garbage, he's not parenting, he's power tripping. You two forced your son into a decision, and now he's the only one acting like an adult. You didn't just mishandle this. You made your son choose between his identity and your nostalgia. He chose himself. And instead of listening, you're asking Reddit how to trick him into another beach photo. Grow the hell up. Comment 3. YTA. You want to salvage this while still planning to drag him on another vacation. How are you still missing the point this badly? Your son has told you through his words, his actions, and a letter that the trip represents betrayal, not bonding. And your response is to double down and host it again? That's like saying, I know you hate this thing that broke your trust, so here's more of it. Also, let's be real here. You didn't just mishandle one trip. This is about years of not respecting boundaries. The job was a turning point. A lot of us had that one moment with our parents where we realized they'd never actually see us as individuals. That was his. You're not preserving a family tradition. You're preserving control dressed up as nostalgia. If you don't change your approach and fast, you're going to be wondering why he never brings his kids around one day. Wake up. Update. I said I'd leave it alone, but I can't. I need to say what happened. I followed through on the trip. I booked the house, packed the car, and told the girls we were going. My husband said, Are you sure you want to force this again? I told him I wasn't forcing anything, that I just wanted one goddamn week where things didn't feel like they were falling apart. My son didn't come. I told him 2 weeks before we left. His answer, You know how I feel. I'm not going. I'm not pretending again. That was it. I asked him one last time the night before we left. He said, I already said no. I told him he could stay with his grandparents. He said he'd already arranged to stay at a friend's. I didn't ask who. So we left without him. It felt wrong before we even got on the highway. The girls were silent. My husband drove with his jaw clenched the entire time. We got there, unpacked, and the first night was dead quiet. I told everyone we'd go out to our usual ice cream spot. Only my youngest came. My 13-year-old said she didn't feel like it. My husband stayed behind. That was the tone for the first few days. Everyone coexisting, no joy. I tried to stay positive, made breakfast, put together board games, and suggested beach walks. Every suggestion landed flat. Then came the 4th day. We were supposed to have a beach dinner. The kind we used to do, fire pit, music, grilled food. I'd packed everything. I asked the girls to help. My 13-year-old shrugged and said, Why? He's not here. It's not the same. My husband didn't even look up from his book. I lost it. I said, You know what? I'm so effing sick of this. I threw the spatula on the ground. All I wanted was 1 week. 1 effing week where we could act like a family again. But no, everyone has to be miserable. Because God forbid we try to do something normal. My husband told me to calm down. That did it. I screamed. I'm the only one even trying anymore. He bailed. You checked out. She's halfway to hating me like he does. And the only person who even gives a damn is a 10-year-old. And now even she looks like she's scared of me. My daughter was crying. My 13-year-old looked horrified. My husband stood up and said, You need to get a grip. And I just snapped. I kicked over the fire pit before we even lit it. I grabbed the cooler and dumped it. Threw the stupid paper plates and plastic forks into the sand. I screamed that I hated this house, hated the beach, and hated the whole fake family bullshit. I said, You all want to blame me. Fine, go ahead. I'm the monster now. Let's just say it. No one said anything. I walked back to the house. My youngest followed a few minutes later. My husband and teen daughter stayed out there. I could see them through the window, sitting in silence, not talking to each other. The next morning, my husband said we should leave early. I told him, We have 3 more days. He said, There's no point. We're done pretending. We packed. The ride home was like a funeral. When we got home, my husband went straight upstairs. My 13-year-old slammed her door. I walked into the kitchen and stared at the bag of marshmallows we never used. The following days were worse. My 13-year-old has started acting like her brother, cold and distant. She asked her dad if she could spend more time at her friend's house on weekends. And now my husband barely looks at me. He does the bare minimum: dishes, trash, bills, but that's it. No warmth, no conversation, nothing. It's like I burnt the last shred of credibility I had. I tried to talk to him the other night. I asked, "Do you really think this is all my fault?" He said, "I think you wanted to win. You didn't care what it cost." I told him I just wanted our family back. He said, "You wanted the version of our family that listens, smiles, and stays quiet. You didn't want the real one." That hit harder than anything my son said. So here I am. I ruined the trip. I ruined the family. And before anyone tells me I still don't get it, I do. I do. But I don't know how to undo it. I don't know how to be in this house where no one looks at me, where my kids are drifting into strangers. My husband only talks to me when there's a bill or a ride needed. I wanted a week to remember. I got one I'll never forget for all the wrong reasons. I know I lashed out. I know I went ballistic. But I felt like no one cared anymore. And maybe they don't. I wanted to give my kids memories. All I gave them was trauma. So, yeah, if you're going to tell me I deserve this, go ahead. I probably do. But if anyone out there has anything to say about how the hell I come back from this, I'll listen. I have no other choice now. Comments. Comment 1. You didn't just lash out. You detonated. And what's worse is you still frame it like everyone else failed to give you what you wanted, like you earned their affection because you planned meals and packed coolers. You keep saying, "I wanted my family back." No, you wanted your image of family. One that didn't include your son saying no, your husband being done, or your daughter setting boundaries. You don't want connection. You want compliance. My mom was the same. Forced joy. Screamed when we didn't reflect it back. Threw tantrums when we pulled away. It took me years to realize she wasn't nurturing us, she was performing. And when we didn't play our roles, she collapsed. That trip was never about bonding. It was nostalgia. And now that no one's feeding your fantasy, you're crumbling. Not because you're evil, because you never built real relationships. You built routines and assumed love would fill in the blanks. You're not the victim. You're the consequence. Comment 2. I don't think you're evil. I think you're in emotional survival mode and have been for a long time. But here's the thing. What you did wasn't about one breakdown. It was the culmination of years of emotional mismanagement. You were clearly raised with the idea that family unity is preserved through rituals and holding it together no matter the cost. So you built this trip into a sacred thing because it was tangible. But connection isn't created through events. It's built through presence, empathy, and letting your kids become people. You didn't allow that. Your son realized he was being emotionally manipulated and opted out. Your husband saw you couldn't let go and stopped trying. Your daughter watched both, saw your meltdown, and decided it wasn't safe to trust you either. You say you wanted to give your kids memories. But memories without emotional safety are just performance. And you made them actors in a play they didn't audition for. You need to stop chasing a return to before that's gone. If there's hope, it's in dismantling the fantasy and rebuilding from reality. That starts with you. Second story. My entitled girlfriend makes 75% less and spends more than me. Demands we join our accounts so she can have fun money. Then shares my finances with her sister and claims I'm selfish and breaks up with me. Now she's come back to try one more time. I refused. And now she's asked me to pay her rent. I am going to try and keep this short. My girlfriend and I moved in together this past summer. We split joint expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, etc., proportional to income. I make about 3x as much as my girlfriend. As a result, I pay 75% of our joint expenses. I have virtually no expenses outside of the point expenses. My girlfriend has a lot of expenses outside our joint expenses. She has a car payment, student loan payments, health insurance premiums, medical debt, personal credit card debt, etc. At the end of the month, she does not have very much money left over. I have a fair bit left over at the end of the month, but most of it I save. I do have a fun money account to treat myself to nice things every once in a while. About a month ago, my girlfriend approached me about the idea of combining income, so we each have money at the end of the month to save and/or to do fun things. I flatly refused this request. I think splitting joint expenses proportional to income is the fair model for an unmarried couple like us living together. And that is what we do. Over Halloween weekend, my girlfriend's sister and her fiancé are having their bachelorette and bachelor parties, respectively. My girlfriend is going to the bachelorette party, and I am going to the bachelor party. The bachelor party will be a weekend boys' trip to Florida. The bachelorette party is substantially smaller due to my girlfriend's inability to contribute significantly to the fund for the party. My girlfriend and her sister talked about the situation. My girlfriend told her sister she cannot afford a big trip. My girlfriend's sister asked how I was affording the bachelor party trip. Then, for reasons that still make no sense to me, my girlfriend went into detail about how much I make and how much I have in savings. I have substantial savings because I went to college on scholarship, and after I graduated, my parents gifted me my entire college fund. My girlfriend's sister has convinced my girlfriend that I am selfish with money. Even though I cover 75% of joint expenses and cover 100% of our going out activities when we do go out, I am pretty pissed about my girlfriend sharing my personal financial information with her sister. But I am unchanged in my position on combining our income. Comments. Comment 1. Nuo, I'm saying this as a woman. Do not join finances with her. You are already covering more than she is. 75% of joint expenses and 100% of dates. She's out of line asking for more and babbling to her sister. She needs to budget better or get a part-time job or something if she wants additional money. NTA, but she definitely is. Comment 2. I would not marry this woman. Comment 3. NTA, her debts are not your fault. Comment 4. Do not combine finances with someone you are not married to. Even after you are married, a lot of couples keep things separate and have joint accounts for bills and possibly large expenses or retirement savings. Or they agree that a certain amount will go to bills, to savings, and then to a fun account. I do think that this is going to fester. You guys have different approaches to money and different debt loads. You might think of couples counseling, and please do remember that if you do marry this person, her debt will become your debt. There are certainly ways to strategize how to deal with that as a couple, which I would not begin before you get married. But if you have radically different approaches to finances, it will only become a bigger issue. And if she is comfortable sharing every detail of your relationship with her sister, which some people do, then I would expect at some point every problem you guys have will make it to her sister's ears. Finally, if her sister is someone who can impact the way she thinks, I would take stock of her as well. Do the two of you think differently? Where do any differences pop up? And on what issues? If you and her sister are incompatible in significant ways, you might consider what that means as well. I would not make any further long-term commitments to her, and certainly no kids, until you guys are on the same page about things. Judgment NTA. Update. 4 days after my post, I had a long sit-down conversation with my girlfriend. Prior to us moving in together, we had a long discussion about what expenses I would cover and why. The reason I moved in with her was to take off some of the load for daily expenses so that she could pay off her debt and save a little each month. Prior to us moving in together, she was going into debt each month just to cover her expenses. I wanted to help her out, but also I wanted to continue to save a substantial amount of money each month towards buying a house. We talked about all this again. I thought we were on the same page. I asked my girlfriend if something had changed. She told me, no. She simply is not happy with this arrangement. She has friends who have been dating for a shorter amount of time than us, but they share money more readily than we do. That is what she wants. I told her I am not okay with that arrangement, and if that is what she wants, we should probably break up so she can find that. She agreed. Shortly after that discussion, I reached out to the landlord to try and see if we could negotiate an early termination of the lease for the both of us. I am still discussing with them. My ex is looking for a new place for her and is having a hard time. She came to me and asked if we could try and work on our relationship. I told her no, and that she will resent me because this is not what she wants. She asked if I could help her out for a few months with rent on a new place. I told her no. She is pretty mad about all of it. But this is where we are. Comments. Comment 1. Dang. She took you for granted and is now dealing with the consequences. Good on you for standing your ground. Comment 2. Lol, so she would rather be single and pay 100% of her bills and go into debt in order to pretend she has more money than she actually does than cut back on her spending and be more responsible. Then she comes crawling back when she realizes just how bad of a mistake she made by listening to her friends. And then has the audacity to ask for financial help. Brother, you dodged a gigantic bullet with this one. Comment 3. Did you ever bring up her betrayal of your trust in sharing your financial status with her sister? She's a gold digger. You dodged a bullet. She fafo. Now she can find out again how expensive rent is when she's paying 100% of it and not 25% of it. Maybe her sister has a guest bedroom. She can move in after they get back from the honeymoon. But breakups are still painful. Sorry, dude or dudette. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.